Hello, and today we're going to talk about business activity. This is our first lecture, so welcome to our course. Now, by the end of this particular topic, we expect you to be able to describe the concepts of needs and wants and scarcity, summarize the purpose of business activity, and define what the added value is, make some calculations, and lastly, we're going to classify different business activities. Okay, let's start over with scarcity. Okay, so first of all, let's define what are the needs, what are the wants, and most importantly, what's the difference between needs and wants. So needs are those things that you absolutely need, that are very vital to continue your existence, such as water, food, shelter, clothing, and so on. How about wants? These are the things that you do not absolutely need, however you wish them to be, such as luxury car, iPhone, 500 square meters. Too good to have, however, you don't need such a big house, isn't it? Okay, so what is scarcity then? The scarcity is the lack of sufficient products to fulfill your needs and wants. So in some part of our planet, there are some people, poor people, that may not be able to fulfill even their absolute needs. They will have some scarcity of food, and sometimes they will have deficiency and scarcity of water. However, in a more developed countries, even if they do meet the needs, however, there are continuous and unlimited wants of people. So even if you're earning a lot of money, you wish to have, people tend to have, consumers tend to have larger houses, second house, third car, and so on. So the term scarcity is a very fundamental and a very fundamental concept that actually drives the economy to work, to produce more goods, and drive people to consume more. Okay, so let's have a look at a very small case study. So let's say that there is a hypothetical country, okay, small country. There are lots of people living there, but unfortunately, quite a lot of them cannot afford even the basic needs of life. So, and the rich citizens are also complaining that there isn't enough luxuries. So they want to buy something that they want to and they can afford, but it just doesn't exist, or it's not actually coming from the outside. Now, government decides to solve the problem by printing more banknotes, more money, doubling everyone's income. Now, my question is, has the government solved the economic problem? So here, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and think about it. Now, another question is, are there more goods to buy? More cars, houses to buy? The second day, everyone has more money now, twice the amount of money, but the fundamental question is, do you have more goods to buy? Do you have more cars to buy, and so on? Actually not. Printing money does not produce more goods in this particular case. You'll just pay twice for the same amount of goods, isn't it? It's like intuitively, it's kind of clear. So, and now I'm gonna explain why people are gonna buy the same amount of goods, but for the double price. Now, a very fundamental concept in economy and in business is supply and demand. Now, supply is when somebody is producing some goods and supplying it to the market. And demand is when the market wants something from the supplier, from the producer. Now, let's take a look at the correlation between prices when the supply goes up and when the demand goes down, and so on. Now, let's think about pandemia. So if you do remember, for these masks, at the very beginning, the prices for these masks rocketed. Do you know why? Because the supply of these masks didn't increase dramatically as the demand did. So in other words, we can assume that the supply has remained the same. However, the demand for these masks, for this particular product, has rocketed, which means that the prices in this particular case will go up. That's why the prices rocketed. However, if you do remember, the prices for the masks gradually went down. Do you know why? Because some smart entrepreneurs, they've come up with an idea, why don't we produce more masks? It seems that there is lots of demand there. Why don't we produce it and supply it to the market? And that's what actually happened. So different people they have begun to produce them or imported from outside, and that's why the supply has increased. So in this case, the equilibrium, the balance has changed, and therefore the price will gradually go down. Now, what if the number of such entrepreneurs and enterprises has increased so much that the demand hasn't changed, but the supply has increased a lot for this particular product? What do you think will happen? Now, the thing is, if the demand hasn't changed, but the supply for this particular product has increased a lot, then the price will go down. Because there are so many people providing this kind of product, but the demand hasn't really changed. Therefore, the price for this thing will go down. Now, this fundamental concept works everywhere and every time. In a capitalistic model, it works for the oil price, it works for the tenge and dollar exchange rate, and so on. Every single product's or assets price change depending on the supply and demand concept. So for instance, why the oil price has gone down? Well, because the demand for the oil has decreased. In a pandemic, for example, people do not tend to travel as much as they used to. They do not use the same amount of petrol. They do not use the same amount of diesel, and so on.